Okay. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, whoever else is listening. Today my guest is Carlo Barrera. Am I slaughtering your name, dude?
No, you're getting it right. Better every time.
Because
I'm
it's
telling
just
you.
like, again, for those who don't speak Spanish, it's Carlos Barrera. Anyway, he is back here for we did an interview a week before the election talking about DACA and the Dreamers, and my point in having him here was to just share a personal connection to some of these policies that the whole world gets in a kerfuffle over. So thank you again, sir, for being back.
Of course, nice to
All right.
finally be face to face.
Face to face, in the flesh. So, okay, the election is over. Well, in theory, I guess it's technically
Yeah.
still fighting over it, but for the most part, it's probably going to be, come down on the side of Biden. So, the concern was that if Trump got in, that it would seriously screw up your chances of staying here.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so that's out. Now, what is the plan, or what is this? Is this like this massive gathering or group, 750,000, or how does that? Is it just a waiting game?
So it's sort of a waiting game. It is going to come down to essentially. So the good thing is Biden and his administration have made it very clear that they're planning to restore DACA to its, to its full capacity, the capacity that the Obama administration, the way the Obama administration implemented it when they signed the executive order in 2011, I believe. So they're planning to completely restore DACA. So all the benefits in terms of traveling, in terms of the 2-year work permit instead of the 1-year work permit, hopefully the lower fees. So they're planning on reinstating that. However, that is, again, just a sort of a temporary fix. I think all Dreamers' eyes right now are on Georgia. So it'll depend on what happens in Georgia in terms of the runoff Senate races, because that'll determine whether the Senate gets flipped blue or not, or if it stays Republican. Because if it stays Republican, then it looks like it'll be just another 4 years of just temporary fixes for Dreamers and for DACA recipients, because the DREAM Act and the Dream and Promise Act have passed the House of Representatives, but once they get to the Senate, then they'll just get stopped there by the Republican-dominated Senate. So, yeah, it's more of just a waiting game at this point. Again, kind of how it's been the past 20-something years. Like, it's just waiting to see what happens regarding the Senate. And then, because if the Senate flips blue, then it's very likely that we get a permanent fix with a Democratic House, Democratic Senate.
That's
and
like written in stone.
Basically, yeah.
So, because it's like the whole prospect of like people send them back is ridiculous, really, because one, logistically, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
for people like you who, you're from Mexico, but you don't know Mexico.
Yeah, exactly, totally. I mean, I
go back to
here.
where you came. Well, you don't like. It's your whole world is here.
Right. I mean, for me, I came here. I think I mentioned in the last podcast. I came here when I was 6, and thankfully, I've had the chance due to DACA to go back 3 times now, or twice, to Mexico City to go visit my family. But that's it. Besides the few memories that I have of being a 6-year-old, I only have those 2 trips back to Mexico, and everything else is here. My family's here, all my, my friends, my work, everything else is here. So, yeah, like you said, if everyone had the mindset of send them all back, where to, like if I were to get sent back to Mexico or Queretaro, which is where I was born, I know no one there. I know I don't have a life.
It's
there,
not your life.
Exactly.
This is your home.
Right.
And you've done a ton of awesome things to make it so, and contribute, and be a decent human being.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of people that are from here that don't do that. They're just like, maybe you should go. Maybe we should send you back somewhere else, or just send you outside of the gate.
Yeah.
So is there a coordinate? Are you part of a group that's trying to sway vote or Congress or like a political action?
Yeah, so I think
like
right
that?
now a lot of the political nonprofits, or for example Forward and other immigration nonprofits that I'm in close contact with, they're kind of getting a lot of Hispanics and a lot of people of color mobilized and motivated to vote in these Senate runoff races in Georgia, because as you can imagine, there's a big Hispanic and a big Black population in Georgia. So we have the people there. It's just getting them motivated and getting them, because we had a big turnout for the election, but I think it's just historically there's not a lot of that excitement doesn't carry over to runoff races, and it doesn't really even carry over to the midterm elections. So I think we did a great job of getting people excited and out to vote for the presidential election, but I think our big hurdle right now is to get people, especially the people in Georgia, excited and out to vote in these runoff races. I think it's in January. So.
Well, now I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't even know if you know the answer. So we think of DACA and Dreamers. I think my mind goes, well, it's just Hispanic people, but there's immigrants from everywhere.
Absolutely.
So what is there like a percentage of? What's the demographic of the Dreamers? Do you know?
That's a great question. I actually don't know. I know the majority is Hispanics just because of the proximity of the Mexican border and just South America in general. But there are people from the Middle East. There are people from Africa. There are people from Europe. There are people from everywhere. And I think that's something that, a lot of people oversee or fail to see, is just that it's not just Hispanics. It's not just Mexicans. It's a whole world of people that want to come here, because if anything, it should speak to the way the world thinks of America. It's not just Mexico and Mexicans who see the U.S. as this like promised land. It's the entire world that really looks up to the United States as a land of opportunity, and it really does encourage all types of people and cultures to come and seek out and live out their dreams here in the States. So it's definitely not just Mexicans or Hispanics.
I think it's because that's what the media focuses on.
Yeah, totally. I mean, because I think, right, exactly. I think especially I think, just from my personal experience, just like, I mean, when President Trump started running for election, I think one of his first ways he addressed Mexicans was as rapists and as bad hombres, and I think the media kind of ran with that, because whenever they think of Mexicans, they think of people coming to steal, quote unquote, steal our low-paying jobs, and they just think of us as like
jobs
lower.
that lazy Americans won't do.
That's
all the cliche arguments that you always hear, and the talking points and stuff like that.
So you're totally right. I think the media definitely focuses on Mexicans as being the immigrants and as being the dreamers and as being DACA recipients, because the media and like our current president have done a pretty successful job of painting us in a bad light and painting Mexicans as kind of the inferior race, to say it bluntly, or
that's
inferior.
horrible.
So like, it's tough to hear, but I mean, I think there's so many people. I mean, one DACA recipient one DACA recipient got the Rhodes Scholarship, or was a Rhodes Scholar, sorry. And so just like, there's so many incredible examples of DACA recipients and Hispanics, Mexicans from all over the world that are proving these stereotypes wrong. So it's,
and then is the media talking about that guy?
Not as much, exactly.
It drives me crazy. It's just like, show some success. It's crazy to me. It's like, where's that going to go with that one? I don't know. So, next step, just kind of waiting it out until the 20th of January to see, make sure what he's legitimately in, officially in, and then it's just kind of a waiting game. Or is there any like legislation that's coming that's like, I've heard, I think I was looking at the Washington Post, and Biden's going to do a 100-day moratorium on deportations. So,
I mean, to be honest,
I
haven't
don't know how
really
true
kept
that
up.
is, but
There's been, as you can imagine, there's been so much in the last month of just back and forth in terms of just like the election alone. Like, none of us, have that peace of mind yet of like who is going to be in the White House on the 20th. We all know what is the most likely event, but right now we're not as like we were 4 years ago. We're not sure, it's not set in stone just because of all the back and forth with the current administration and all their lawsuits. So I think the main thing I've been keeping up with is just Biden's plan for Dreamers and DACA recipients, and thankfully he's been very clear that he believes Dreamers belong here and are U.S. citizens and everything but paper, and so the least he can do and in his power will be to restore DACA and sign that executive order. So that's great. That gives all 750,000 of us peace of mind, and plus the other millions that under this current administration, the current policies regarding DACA could not apply. because right now you could only renew your DACA. You couldn't, if you were eligible pre the Trump administration to apply for DACA, the Trump administration took that ability away. So if you were qualified in everything but in paper, you met all the requirements, you weren't able to apply if you hadn't already had DACA. So there's a lot of people that got kind of left out and kind of just missed that cutoff date. So I think Biden's executive order, once he steps into office, will alleviate all 750,000 of our fears, as well as the other people who will be able to step into that program as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, for what, tell me that when we first interviewed a few weeks ago, you gave some website addresses for organizations that people could follow, or what are those again?
Yeah, so it's forwardfwd.us, which is great, and informedimmigrant.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and then those are the two. I mean, and also just kind of, I literally for the last, I don't know, almost not every day, but for the last 4 years, I would just go on Google and just DACA news, and then just anything that popped up, because every week it seemed like there was just a new policy change or a new media story about the future of DACA and stuff like that. So yeah, but Informed Immigrant is great because it also helps you if you're an ally and you want to help. You obviously, if you're not a DACA recipient and aren't affected by these policies, but you want to help those who are affected by these policies, like there are ways to donate, because these, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last podcast, but one negative impact that the Trump administration had on Dreamers and DACA was that instead of every 2 years renewing, instead of your work permit being valid for 2 years and it costing around, I don't know, $600, they bumped up the renewal fee to like $750, and then, don't quote me on that, but it's around $750, and then instead of being valid for 2 years, it was only valid for one. And as you can imagine, a lot of these Dreamers and DACA recipients come from low-income families or have low-paying jobs, and to have to pay that every year on top of rent, on top of mortgage, on top of raising a family, that's a lot of money. So these organizations do an amazing job of just mobilizing and getting donations and covering those fees for people who can't afford it. Thankfully, I've been in the position, I've had to renew it several times now, and it's either come out of my pocket, or I've had, the last time I renewed it a year and a half ago, thankfully my school that I was at, Spire, was able to cover it. So they were incredible. As I mentioned, I think last podcast, that school was just phenomenal in the way they treated me and the way they supported me. As soon as Trump took office, I kind of opened up about my story to our then head of school, Dr. Tischler, and our then head of lower school, Lamore Balter, and I told him basically my story and how that the next 4 years would affect me, and they were incredibly supportive, and anything I needed, they were there, and whenever I needed it, and the administration was able to cover my fee, which was incredibly helpful, and just alleviated a lot of my stress in terms of finances, and just knowing that I would be able to buy myself another 2 years in this country.
Yeah. It's like our fun-loving government,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we don't know how to make our own money, so let's just tax everyone else. To do that, to make it every year.
Yeah, exactly.
To do the same amount of work. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm being oversimplistic about it, but it's like, we're going to charge the same amount for the less. It's like, let's double our rates but don't double our service.
Right.
Drives me crazy.
No, and that's what I think when that came out, it was just a big slap in the face, because it was unprecedented, and no one really knew why it was being done or where it came from. And it was basically just like, if you think about it, it's just a way to kind of, it's just a way to make the hurdle bigger for Dreamers and DACA recipients. Like, okay, you already have this giant hurdle, like I mentioned, just so many people, to a lot of U.S. citizens, like that wouldn't be a huge amount of money, it wouldn't be a life-changing amount of money. But for Dreamers and DACA recipients, for most cases that is, like, and even in my case, like that, if I had to pay that every year by myself, like that'd be a lot of money. It'd be a big financial burden. So it did seem like just like a slap across the face to all of us, because it was just like a way of like making it harder for us to stay, even though we already had all these anxieties and all these different emotions around the last 4 years of the administration. It was just like,
let's just put the pressure on more.
Yeah.
Just squeeze them a little harder.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing.
Exactly.
And that's unfortunately that's expected with government mentality. But
Yeah. And I think if I just one last thing, I think
yeah,
it would be. I think. I mean, I'm not super. I'm hopeful. I'm not. If I'm thinking realistically, I'm not sure what's going to happen in Georgia. To be honest, if I was a betting man, I would say that it would stay red, or the Senate would stay red. Excuse me. So like I just think if these last 4 years have taught the country anything, is that we need to work on both sides of the aisle to get things done. So I would just like implore. I mean, obviously, like just like from whoever's hearing this, I think it would just be like to work with your neighbor that like might be on the opposite aisle of the political spectrum as you, but just like the way we've seen how not a lot has gotten done in terms of just legislation because the Democrats can't work with the Republicans and vice versa in terms of the Senate. So like if the Senate stays red, it would just mean another temporary 4 years.
4 years of nothingness happening.
for Dreamers. So instead of, okay, let's work together to, because I forget the percentage, but a majority of Americans are for the DREAM Act and are for passing permanent legislation for DACA recipients and Dreamers, and it's just like comes down to Congress and comes down to the Senate to like work together to get that wish of the American people passed. You know, I think if the last 4 years have taught us anything, is that we do need to, you know, sacrifice some things and obviously, you know, not sacrifice our values and our morals, but I think we need to definitely meet somewhere in the middle to get some positive permanent legislation passed. Like, I think there's even people who are against giving Dreamers and DACA recipients permanent citizenship. There's not a lot that they see wrong with the program. It's more of just like stereotypes and past views on immigrants that are kind of holding them back from seeing the positive of permanent legislation for Dreamers. So yeah, I just would hope that this election has taught us that to get any positive change passed, we need to meet in the middle and work together.
We need to get along.
Yeah.
And stop. So whoever, if someone's in Congress or Senate that's maybe listening to this, stop acting like you're in elementary school on the playground and figure out how to make things happen. Because most answers do come from the middle.
Yeah.
And compromising, and it's like this whole crazy battle that we hate them so bad we're not gonna, we're gonna undo everything they did. It's just selfish and stupid. So, all right, man. Thank you again.
Thanks,
and I was just about to ask you if there's anything else I needed to ask you, but you knew that's where I was going, and you answered.
Before I forgot, I wanted to make sure I brought it up. Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I want to keep in touch with you and just kind of see how things are going.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, we were talking about last night how I'd love to, as more updates and as the Biden administration takes office in January and things hopefully get passed or things start kind of getting in the works of permanent legislation, I'd love to do a monthly or whatever check
DACA series, man.
Yeah, there you
DACA
go.
series, DACA updates.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome. Cool.
Very, very cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Anytime, man. Okay, I should have shut that gurgling piece of crap down. I always have to shut that one down too, because it's just like